Myanmar's government has been initiating an ambitious program of reform that could change many aspects of their society. But legislation may be one thing. What kind of effect it is actually having in practice is another thing. Our correspondent Roy Rosenberg filed this report from Myanmar on how these reforms are impacting life in this changing nation.
No one can say that this is the same Myanmar of 2 years ago, since leaders in this once relatively isolated southeast nation embarked on political, social, and economic reforms. The country has witnessed undeniable changes, some visible, opposition leaders openly attending and speaking at international gatherings, being hosted in the country. The World Economic Forum, for example, held just last week. Others have been economic, a flurry of foreign brands rushing back in thanks to the removal of most international sanctions. And others informative, local vendors now selling an array of local publications from new independent media, a change that's benefited even us. We're doing something now that until recently was completely forbidden. We're walking through the streets of Myanmar's relatively new capital in public with a camera. Until a series of recent government reforms were launched, doing this in what was a relatively secret, closed military city would have landed us in jail. Now I can take you freely on a tour around Naypyidaw, showing you, for example, the new parliament building, built using Chinese money. China has also played a key part in Myanmar's development for years, building much of its so-called traditional infrastructure, roads, airports, and buildings. Now a wide range of international firms are trying to get in on the action. Some sectors are offering lucrative tenders, but there are some challenges, for example, in setting up an efficient mobile network.
The return of investment will take some time. The ARPU, the average revenue per user, is predicted to be not high here in Myanmar. The operators have to invest in the infrastructure, so it will be a challenge for them over the next couple of years really to get their revenue back.
Some, like Vodafone and China Mobile, have dropped out, but that hasn't stopped nearly a dozen others from bidding. Meanwhile, in recent days, American beverage giant Coca-Cola became the first Western firm in more than half a century to resume production in Myanmar, a move company officials say will create 22,000 jobs. American card maker Ford, Anglo-Dutch goods maker Unilever, and others are set to follow suit. But that may require retraining some of Myanmar's young workforce, and that too may prove a challenge. Most of the population lives in the country's rural areas, in what used to be called the Rice Bowl of Asia, known for a richness in the soil that led to a richness in its people. But today's farmers, 70% of the country, are poor. Our main difficulty is drought. If there's no rain, we can't do anything. Some people who have money can take water from the canals and carry on farming, but we don't have that or the machines, so we just have to wait. The reforms to help them might not last if the money doesn't follow. Some international firms are still hesitant, noting, for example, that a foreign investment law passed by the parliament in November still hasn't been put into effect by the government. Others are waiting to see what will happen in the elections due in 2015. But some, like Alisher Ali, who started one of Myanmar's first venture capital funds, say don't wait.
My message is to investors to come here to see the opportunities with their own eyes, to assess both the rewards and the risks. And the risks obviously are substantial, but nevertheless I think when it comes to investment opportunities throughout Asia, Myanmar represents one of the best opportunities that exist in Asia.
Need a little more encouragement? The Ministry of Tourism has launched this new glossy video campaign highlighting the country's rich heritage, an obvious allusion to its rich potential. The message is very clear.
Myanmar, let the journey begin.
For World Insight, I'm Roy Rosenberg in Myanmar.